Caddyshack here with your local agronomist and farmer, Chris Morgner from Agri-Valley Consulting.
Glad to be here with you, Brian.
Thanks for joining me, Chris. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day. Brought you here today to talk about IPMs, an integrated pest management program that I believe sometimes gets neglected out of all the duties in the farm, but turns out to be a huge issue if it's never assessed properly.
I would agree entirely. I just want to let you know that I actually have my degree, my bachelor's degree in integrated pest management.
There you go. Then you're the guy.
The reason integrated pest management came about was because it was trying to focus on a variety of control practices instead of just relying on, one or two single practices like chemical control, pesticides. Trying to integrate other control factors into our pest problems to control them.
I wanted to touch on, with your years of experience in agriculture, the issue underneath the ground. And that's the burrowing rodent that we know multiple growers come across all year round, whether it's mice that we always hear the stories on the west side. Gophers and squirrels are the most common, right? The damages they do. What have you seen from the beginning, from, you said was 70, what year did you graduate?
78.
From 78 to 2026. How has the rodent control program really developed, and what you've seen, and what have you seen worked and not work?
Yeah, well, that's, probably rodents weren't particularly on my radar when I first started my PCA career.
Now, was it here in the Central Valley where you started your PCA career? Okay.
In Merced. Came to Merced after I graduated and started working in the field, and did cotton for years. Oh my gosh, cotton was king back in the 80s, right? In the 90s. But then gradually people got smart and started planting almonds.
But started diversifying, going the almond route.
So we weren't, I wasn't particularly aware of all the issues with rodents. At that time, when I first started, we had flood irrigation. So we weren't getting damage to our irrigation system. There was squirrels, there was rodents, don't get me wrong, but it's become more intensified, I think, because our farming is more intensified, and we have a landscape that's kind of solid orchards out there in a lot of areas.
Versus rotating crops, and keeps them out.
And we're not doing tillage. In our nut crops, we try to stay away from tillage. We want to leave the ground undisturbed. A couple of reasons: for harvest purposes, but also it's healthy for the soil.
And that involves taking care of your rodent issue.
Good point. However, the rodents, I think, obviously ground squirrels can be damaging. When you have a mature crop and you have nuts in the tree, they're gonna go after those nuts as soon as they're viable, and they're gonna eat. We've seen them clean off the trees. They'll climb the tree. They'll just take the nuts, and they'll just go from one tree to the next and just eat all the nuts on the tree.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it. You've seen it. I mean, we've seen acres and acres of stripped trees due to, when I'm saying that out loud, I'm picturing it's always the orchards next to fallow land, usually open ground that there's nothing you can do. I mean, we've come across
rangeland,
and they wipe out
unmanaged land,
and there's really nothing you can do there. You can fight against it, which a lot of guys do, that I see with the most common practice, and correct me if I'm wrong, the tees.
The bait stations.
I have a theory on that, and I think growers, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, are wasting their time with that, because these rodents they're not dumb. They communicate in a way. So if Jeff goes into that, now they know, hey, those 30 T-posts along that barbed wire fence, don't go to it. I was always told by an old farmer in Yuba City, he said, broadcast it. If obviously with regulations, you can't get the certain poisons in certain areas, you can't broadcast it. It has to be in I could be butchering this, confined area such as a tee box or
Right. A bait station.
But he always say, you broadcast it, and here's the reason. You spread it out just enough, not too much so it's suspicious, but just enough so it's not suspicious, and they'll continue to eat it.
Okay, I think you make a good point here in the sense that I think you have to try a variety of ways to get them to accept the bait. Okay. So we've seen times where, and you have to check your labels on this, but where at the burrow entry, putting the bait right there has worked. We've seen times when it didn't. We've seen bait stations work just fine. We've seen broadcast applications work very well. The big thing is you have to do it at the time of year that's going to be most effective.
And what most people think would be spring, correct? After these rains are done?
It's now.
It's now.
Okay, before they have their new litters. Because they have mating and new litters typically in March and April, but
and food supply scarce, so they need something.
Yeah, and often pre-baiting is a helpful thing. So getting some oats, okay, especially if you're using oat bait for your poison with your rodenticide on it. Getting them used to accepting some oats, this is a good time to do it. They might be foraging on green right now, forbs and grasses and stuff, but once you can get them to accept, some oats,
and you've seen good kill.
Yeah, where then you can introduce your bait stations with your rodenticide on there.
So always kind of mixing it up, picking the right time of the year to add baits or poison.
Now is the time. I mean, getting them in January and February. You want to get them early, and you have to be very intentional. This can't be a casual.
It can't be, hey, we'll do it today in February, and then we won't even worry about it come harvest.
You have to stay with this because most of so for instance, chlorophacinone, diphacinone that are commonly used anticoagulant rodenticides, they have to have a constant supply. If they're eating that bait and they run out of it, then it's not going to be effective.
It won't work.
No, you have to be monitoring those bait stations, and when they eat, you have to fill them back up.
Now, have you heard on certain cases where poisons won't work because the offset of vitamin K that alfalfa or grass
I've heard those, and I imagine that's a factor.
Yeah.
If there's alfalfa, if that's, I don't know what other crops would induce that problem, but we don't seem to have too much issue with that.
Too many issues.
So that's kind of squirrels for right now. Let's talk about the gophers.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we can go straight into, we can go on what you see the impact on the orchard health due to gophers. How do you break that down?
I think especially young orchards, it's a huge problem because they're going to eat gophers.
They kill the tree.
They're going to kill the tree.
Yeah.
Most likely. Voles, meadow mice, also can kill, and they don't usually kill the roots. They girdle the trunk right at the base of the tree. Okay. We've seen problems with those. They'll kill a second leaf almond tree, a third leaf almond tree
in a heartbeat.
Oh my gosh.
And
they just girdle them and it's done.
Yeah.
And we've seen a lot of damage from them. So you have to pay attention. I think, it's kind of interesting. We put these cartons on the tree, newly planted trees, right? They call them guards or cartons. And it actually kind of impedes our ability to monitor for the problems because we can't go and lift up every single carton out there.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's still a common practice, and you just have to recognize that if you see any tree declining, you go figure out what it is and monitor the trees adjacent to it and make a decision whether or not you need it.
Yeah, because more times than less, you would say if they got a hold of that tree's done.
Yeah, that tree will be done, but you need to stop it in the beginning.
And a common question I get asked when growers say, "Hey, when do you believe it's the best time to treat a gopher or a bull?" And I say, "When you have them."
Yeah. I agree.
Don't wait for the spring. Don't think they only put out babies in the spring. Because if they have a thriving habit environment, water, root systems, which creek sides are notorious for that. We see litters, and this goes same for the squirrel. It's a thriving environment. Litters are pushed out throughout the whole year. They're more in the springtime, yes, but I tell them when you have the issue, get to it.
Brian, if you have in your orchard a rodent problem, the one point I really want to get across here is they are not going to go away by themselves.
No.
Okay? They're there because there's a good habitat, there's a good food source. And if they're multiplying, it's because they're thriving for a reason, okay? Yeah. And you have to either modify the environment, which is difficult to do, or intervene in some other way, okay? And the point I want to make here is you have to be very intentional about this. You can't casually go about,
hey, my irrigator's got free time, give this a go. You need to have a dedicated, depending on your pressure, your acreage, all that, yes.
Have you seen the gopher hawk?
So because Caddyshack, I remember we fumigated your field and you've had a few of these to where you've maintained since we've been there. So that's the first time I've seen it.
Okay.
And you've had good luck with that?
Oh, unbelievable. These gopher hawks are easy to put in. Once a person, it doesn't take more than a couple hours and you're an expert almost. Okay. Finding the burrow, the tunnel system, placing this gopher hawk, it's a vertical trap. Okay. So it sticks up in the air and it's spring loaded. And then once you get that thing placed in the ground, I've seen good trappers trap like 30 an hour gophers.
Those are skilled guys.
Yeah.
It
doesn't take long. They'll go and set maybe 10 or 15 of these traps, and by the time they get them all set, they go back around and they're already catching them.
And they ping them, right? Don't they? The spring drops claws them. There's an indicator.
Yeah. You can tell if it's been triggered.
I actually recommend that to a lot of my residential stuff because we come in a lot. We provide the fumigation service. So we come out, we fumigate, and we control the issue. And there's always one or two that stick around. Well, I just turn them to the gopher hawk if they can because it's easy to maintain. And it works quite well.
It's not a complicated thing. They cost a little money, but they last a long time.
Yeah.
Okay. A good investment. I think they're worth doing. You can send maybe your irrigator has a few hours during the day. He can go trap for a few hours.
Take a certain section.
Pick a certain section, move over to the next section, move over to the next section, whenever but it has to be fairly consistent. If you're going to get this under control, you have to stay on top of it. It may take a couple months.
Yeah. Oh, we've seen, obviously you've seen it. We've all seen it being out in the orchard. Sometimes, depending on the issue, it might take a full year.
Yeah.
And I tell everybody, you have to, it's like an army, land, air, and sea. You got to attack them from every which way you can.
It's so interesting. These gophers, when the ground gets disturbed, they get curious.
Oh yeah.
So when you're probing to try to find where the tunnel is, okay, the gopher tunnel on the ground, and you place this trap, they're curious as to what's going on, so they come to it, and that's why I've seen them trigger the trap in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
That quick.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm assuming when you go, your indicator of an active burrow is going to be reading the soil, right?
yes,
they do mount
we're
up
going to
the dirt.
look at the mounds, and so like right after a mowing, when you mow the floor of the orchard with the mower, within a few days, you're going to be able to see the fresh activity, the fresh mounds instead of the old mounds.
Yeah.
And so that's a time to
While we're on the topic of the gopher hawk,
mm-hmm.
what's your thoughts on the squirrel traps, or which traps have you seen that you believe work?
The squirrel traps I have not personally used. I know some growers have used them. They're live traps.
Yeah.
And so then you got to deal with this animal being alive.
Yeah.
Okay. So
for some it's easy, for some it's not.
It's not that easy. So I don't know the effectiveness of those. So I can't really address that. But certainly, I didn't bring in my can. I've got a can of aluminum phosphide tablets.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. These are very effective for gophers.
Very.
And the only problem is the state of California decided to really crack down on the regulations for the use of those aluminum phosphide. So now it's become much more difficult. Not only is it restricted material that you have to file a notice of intent, you have to have a fumigation plan, you have to have a gas monitor on the workers that are implementing.
Yeah, implementing.
You have to stay away from dwelling
a
certain distance.
And all that you list off is a conversation I have with our customers. Like, yes, hey, fox toxin, I think we all know it, is the bread and butter.
Mm-hmm.
It's extremely dangerous, but extremely potent if used properly.
Right.
But they said, hey, all the steps it takes to get it, it's a pain in the butt. And then to put an employee on it, it's a huge risk. They just... They go to other alternatives, whether it's poisons, traps, or fumigation.
I wanted to bring up, and I think I mentioned this to you in our earlier conversation that we had preparing for this. Dr. Roger Baldwin, he's the UC Davis Extension Specialist for human and wildlife interaction.
Yeah.
That's the term they use. Okay, it's not just rodents. There's other animals, right?
It's more complex than just rodents.
But I wanted to bring him into this a little bit because he's done a lot of work, and I respect his opinions. He has a few videos on YouTube that you could look up. Just type in UC Davis, Dr. Roger Baldwin for search, and you'll find some of those, and they're very helpful. He has embarked on a new video series that's going to come out sometime in March, and maybe we can update that when those are released.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So we'll find out where those going to be.
Yeah,
where are they going to be shown?
I would like to actually get contact with you, and a few others have recommended his opinion to me.
So he says that the exhaust gas is pretty effective. It's a matter of making sure that the tunnels, the burrows, get full of gas.
Yeah,
and that it's not leaking out somewhere.
Yes,
and that can be tough, especially if this population has been there a while.
That's why with
excuse me,
the fumigation, we always preach, like, hey, if you're going to do a fumigation service, you need to have the smoke indicator in it, which most guys, it's animal grade mineral oil. It creates the white smoke. That's an indicator That way you can see if it's leaking everywhere or where it's leaking from, so you can seal. Because the whole objective is to seal as much carbon monoxide as you can so it fills the tunnel systems, depleting their vital organs of oxygen, right? So what comes next is a peaceful...
I think I've heard something like takes like 2 or 3 minutes?
It depends. If it's a really complex, long tunnel system, it'll take a little bit longer. But if it's a short tunnel system, 3 minutes, we'll get rid of a gopher. We, with our units, with our crew, with us training and what we look for, we probe ahead. Once the whole area is secure, we go ahead and probe the other mounds just to get an idea how connected the tunnel is. Seeing how far it stretches is another indicator to add a little bit more time, as we want that carbon dioxide to travel through the whole tunnel system, because they are pretty complex, especially if you're dealing with an orchard that hasn't been touched or dealt with at all. And, weeks, months, all they do is dig.
I don't know that, I'm not good about the biology of a gopher. I imagine they can live several years.
Yeah.
They get big.
Some
of them get huge.
We've seen with our team, with Kyle and Gilbert and myself, I mean, we've seen them huge. They look like...
And they don't die real easy when they're that big.
No, so that goes over to the squirrels, larger animals, bigger, more complex tunnel systems. Because what this gopher can dig at a small diameter, you have this guy who can move 10 times as quick and go way larger, really disrupting. I mean, we've seen it in dairies, cement foundations, blown out lagoons, to our most common in the almond orchards. They ruin berms, your irrigation system's a mess. And what we've learned is watching the squirrel in the orchard. Some factors, old, beat up, or extremely overweight, not gophers, I'm sorry, squirrels, is an indicator they've been there for a while. We've came across a job where we've done, I did everything I could, and it put maybe a little dent, but we knew something wasn't right. So we went back after a rain. We had collapsed tree rows from the tunnel systems underneath. So we then started plugging in, I'm talking craters, something that's really going to jump up.
If that's the case, you've got exposed roots.
I've seen roots coming from where the tree berm is all the way across the whole tree row. So, I'm seeing thick.
So you're talking squirrels.
Squirrels, all squirrels.
And how about in the tree, girdling the bark?
On this particular job, they did not make it there. I've seen that on 50-year-old pear trees out in Cortland.
I've seen it in Madera on pistachio trees where they killed the entire scaffolds.
Really?
Just girdled them.
Yeah. And
they stripped the bark off. There's something about the bark that they...
On specifically pistachios?
Well, that's where I've seen the most problem. I don't know what...
It could be. I believe it. I have guys that have the theory that
I've seen rats girdle almond trees well up in the canopy.
Yeah.
They'll feed on the...
You can see their little openings and all that stuff. Yeah. There's something to be said on the bark and certain root systems. I had a cherry guy who's convinced gophers love cherry because the roots are sweeter. I don't know how accurate that is, but something about the root system. I just think
we all have our little
thoughts and ideas. Yeah. But at the end of the day, the main thing's the main thing, and it's keeping them out of the orchards, because they ruin. We're just talking about a tree health right now. We're not even talking about your irrigation system, your actual field that your equipment has to go through.
If you got almonds, you got to harvest on that floor, and if you got mounds all over, I've seen mounds be 2 feet high.
And this equipment is not made to bounce over that.
No, and even your mowers are getting worn out going over that stuff. So, yeah, not good.
It's not good.
It has to be addressed so that you don't get to that point.
So we can agree an integrated, I guess we should say, rodent management program is very important. Whether you go poisons, whatever that may be, the boxes, owl boxes we haven't touched on, gopher, hawks, traps, or a fumigation service.
And there's more traps than just gopher hawks, but
that's the one you're familiar with
that I like.
Yeah, you can put your word.
There's another one called the Gophinator, and it's better than the old Maccabee traps. But I wouldn't say better, easier to utilize. So anyway, the owl boxes. I'm a little mixed on this owl thing. I know they can eat dozens of gophers per day.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the owls, I say, again, with everything, with poisons, traps, fumigation, owls, I don't think there's one that can just take care of it all. I think you introduce every which way. I've seen owls. I mean, I've gone up to the boxes. I mean, we stretch from Bakersfield to Chico, so we see all this stuff, and we see them pretty loaded up.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it's like, okay, it's helping in a way.
Sure.
So that's why I go back to, hey, you got to attack these things from land, air, sea, whatever it takes.
Which is why you're emphasizing integration, right?
Yeah.
Integrating different methods.